Hey everyone, welcome to my January 2023 book haul. This is a new series that I'm starting. It's completely unscripted. And really, as the name suggests, all I'll be doing is go through all the books that I've bought for a given month. And as per usual, when I start a video or start recording a video, there's a dog barking outside. Apologies about that, but I've kind of just gotten zen about this that it's out of my control. So it is what it is, as we like to say here in Australia. Yeah, as I said, this is completely unscripted. Really, it's mostly what I do in this channel is discuss books, ideas. I love learning. I am certainly a bibliophile, and I think it was Sartre who said that I will die probably the same way I have lived, by books. And I think that certainly applies for me too. And given that I kind of really enjoy watching, the books are right here, by the way. I want to see, it's like I've got a whole bunch because I'm kind of cheating. I'm doing the Jan 2023 book haul, but some of these books I bought last month, but I'll just put them all together in one video. And every month I'm hoping to go through some of the books I've bought, my reasoning, and then hopefully it inspires you to get exposed to some thinkers, some ideas, perhaps even buy and read these books, because that's really how I come across a lot of these books. Apart from just my own reading, it's also just watching YouTubers and other people online sharing what they've bought, sharing what they've read. Some people like watching what's it called, mukbang or not bukake. I almost thought of bukake. That is, well, some people probably like watching that too, but it's the video. It's quite sad and nihilistic, honestly, where you watch people eat a lot of food and you get some kind of stimulation by that. I have a similar thing with books. Whenever I see people's libraries or book collections or even just their book hauls, I instantly am captivated by it. So I thought, why not just go through some of the books I've bought? Hopefully, as I said, you gain some kind of value from this. This is clearly unscripted because I have currently been just blabbering for about 3 minutes without getting to the books. So without further ado, let's get started. The first book is, I just started on it. As you can see, the bookmarks right there. I've read like 30 pages. It's Noam Chomsky's Own Language. I always wanted to get into Chomsky, especially with my interest in artificial intelligence. I really want to get into more of his linguistics work. The only book I've read by him, really, well, I've read the book on anarchism and obviously Manufacturing Consent, which is probably the book he's most known for in the general public. But I wanted to read something that's a bit of a, let's say, prelude to his work on linguistics. And my fellow Redditors and a few other people, in fact, a colleague of mine also who is studying linguistics, recommended this book and a whole bunch of other books if one is interested in getting into linguistics. I'll leave like a screenshot to her message somewhere here. So this is one book she recommended too. And so I bought this. So it's Own Language by Noam Chomsky. That's that book. And the next one is Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha. Just bought it because it's firstly a short read. I kind of like to get to something a bit heavy and technical, be it philosophy, computer science, or software engineering, because those three are like the big topics that I'm interested in. And then every time I get into that, I like to read something a bit more lighter like this, even though I don't think Siddhartha is that light. It's something just I could get through probably on a weekend or something. So that's that. And then these two books I'll show together. They both are by Peter Rollins. The Idolatry of God and How Not to Speak of God. So last month I kind of went through a phase. Well, I shouldn't say last month. I've been listening to Peter Rollins for perhaps a year now. And last month I went through a phase where I just really took up all of his videos, blog posts, wherever I could find him. I just kept listening to him, reading about him. And he too was influenced by Kierkegaard and Paul Tillich, and even Žižek. Those three thinkers have heavily influenced me. And I thought it's finally time to actually read something Peter Rollins has written, apart from the blog posts here and there, and just listening to his like lectures. And so I'm really keen to get started on this. In fact, probably even more than this, how not to speak of God. I'm thinking of doing a complete, extensive or exhaustive book review on how not to speak of God, because I've heard really good things about this, coming from that radical theology perspective, which is what I subscribe to. And as a Christian, I very much fall in the lines of a Paul Tillich or a Peter Rollins. So yeah, these two books, How Not to Speak of God and The Idolatry of God, are two books that I'm probably going to read them subsequently. Not subsequently. I'm probably going to read them together, parallelly. That's what I was thinking of, because they're quite related and it's the same author, so it's I could draw a lot of connections. But this, as I said, is the one that I'm really keen to get into, How Not to Speak of God. The next one is by Solzhenitsyn. One of those books that I just feel like I want to read this year. One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. Is that how you pronounce it? Anyway, I know that this is one of Solzhenitsyn's earlier books, and I've heard that this is probably it's just a documentation of a person in a gulag, and in comparison to his perhaps magnum opus, Gulag Archipelago, it's a little less moralistic, and it's just this really crude, almost prima facie. No, prima facie isn't the right term. This very crude, I'd say, unopinionated description of a day in the life of a person in a gulag. I'm keen to get into it. Again, short read, so I'll probably get through this. I wouldn't say a weekend, because it's probably a bit more dense. So maybe a couple of days. I am a slow reader. And this one here, on the topic of gulags and the evils of the Soviet Union, and Applebaum's Red Famine. Man. I've heard so many good things about this. I've been focusing a lot on philosophy and theory last year, and I probably will do the same thing this year too. My main goals in terms of my learning is going to be philosophy and theory, and then of course AI and computer science from my other love. So I probably won't get too political. It'll be a lot of of course, and theology, of course. This was my other love too, because I certainly I'm a very, very religious thinker. But this book is probably going to be an exception. I certainly am going to read this. It's a bit dense, and I hear it's a tough read, both in terms of the time you got to give it, the intellectual labor, let's say, but also emotionally. It's a tough read, but I do want to get into this. I've heard so many people like Michael Malice, I think Lex Friedman, and a few other thinkers talk about this book. And then on the topic of theory, Gilles Deleuze's What is Philosophy? This book has been recommended by many people. Even J.C. Walden, is it the YouTuber? I kind of really enjoy watching his stuff on YouTube. I'm not going to look it up now, but I think his name is J.C. Walden. I always watch his videos, but I don't even know what the guy's name is. R.C. Sorry, I think it's R.C. Walden. R.C. Walden. Yep, the YouTuber R.C. Walden. I really do. Let me see if I could share my screen. That probably screwed it up. This guy here, Robin Walden, his stuff is really good, and he recommended Gilles Deleuze's What is Philosophy? So I'm keen to get into this, and this aligns well with my goal this year to really get into deep theory. So it's going to be this one. And then Hannah Arendt's The Human Condition. Another thinker that I want to get into deeply. So I've only read Eichmann in Jerusalem by Hannah Arendt. I do have a copy of The Origins of Totalitarianism. I don't think I'll be able to get into that this year because it's a bit more dense, and I know it's a bit more of an exhaustive work. But I believe I may read this book this year, The Human Condition. And I know, is this the last book she wrote? I believe. I think she couldn't even complete this book. But again, I've heard some really good things about it, so I want to get into it. And then, of course, Lacan, Slavoj Žižek's How to Read Lacan. I know it's a tiny book, but trust me, I've kind of perused through it. It is not a easy book to read, despite it being one of Žižek's more accessible works. But given it's on Lacan, not that easy. So I'd say a good way to read this is to, while reading it, use some other resources like Google, for instance. The next one is Mark Fisher's Capitalist Realism. I've read this book, and I had the Kindle with me, or the PDF, and I really, really like this book. I feel like so much of my thinking has been impacted when I read this book. Was it last year or the year before? And I've mentioned it to many people. I've referenced it in many of my essays, stuff I've written. It's just such an accessible book for a neophyte like me. And I just thought, I gotta own a copy. I gotta own a physical copy. I like physical books, and that's why I bought it. I probably won't read it this year. I mean, I may use it for reference, or maybe, again, because it's not that much of a difficult read, make it like a weekend read or something, because I have read this, but just wanted to own a physical copy. And then, on the topic of theology, so the video review, or the book review, will be coming soon on the podcast. Paul Tillich's Dynamics of Faith. I already made a book review on The Courage to Be, and this is going to be the next book that I'll be working through to create a review. I know I said that I'm going to do Peter Rollins's How to Not Speak of God, but I don't know. I think I'm going to do this first because I've read this book before. I've read the PDF or the Kindle, but it's one of his best works. It's so good. It's very accessible. It's much more accessible than his Systematic Theology, which is, his 3-volume series, which is, that should be his magnum opus because it's a brilliant piece of work, a brilliant piece of scholarship. But it's a hard book to make a book review on. Whereas this, I believe, can be condensed into one long podcast. So I shall be taking a bit more notes. I'm going to reread this for that podcast, take some notes, and get into it. I'm very excited for that episode. The next one is Sartre's Existentialism is Humanism. I have been very, I don't know, the French existentialists, I know, tend to be a bit controversial. A lot of right-wing people hate them, but I really like them. I like pretty much all the French existentialists. I think they're brilliant. I think they were beautiful souls. They were interesting people, and it is because of that I want to heavily get into de Beauvoir and Sartre. So this is the speech he gave, I think, Existentialism is a Humanism, and I want to give this a read. And on the topic of people that don't like the French existentialists or the French thinkers is Camille Paglia's Sexual Persona. Paglia certainly don't like the French intellectuals, but I very much like Paglia. I think she's another great thinker, especially given she's heavily influenced by de Beauvoir and Nietzsche, who I am, where I am too, and I like her way of thinking. This is probably her magnum opus. A lot of people would agree. So Sexual Persona, or Sexual Persona, is that how it's pronounced? I'm not sure. Is another book I want to read, given I have interests in kind of her sociological analysis of gender dynamics and whatnot. Again, big book, so I don't know when I'll get into this. Probably in the end of the year, because I haven't really got any urgency, let's say, to read this. It's just one of those books that's going to sit on my shelf, and I'll be looking at it every single day, and I want to be thinking, I've got to read that. So it's this. Next one is, again, on the topic of theory, Butler's and Laclau's and Žižek's Contingency, Hegemony, and Universality. This book was recommended. So again, this is because I want to access more theory. I want to get into some deep theory, despite being a neophyte. This book was recommended by one of my favorite YouTubers, and I think he's really a TikToker. I don't know, but he makes some fantastic videos on Lacan, Hegel, and Žižek. Julian D. Let me find the name of his. Julian D. Medeiros. I just call him Julian. This guy. Fantastic YouTube channel. I love listening to his lectures. And I'll probably get into this soon too, because I think it's a great dialogue that they have amongst the new leftist thinkers, the new leftist intellectuals. Certainly these three thinkers, Butler, Laclau, and Žižek, are the preeminent thinkers in modern leftism, especially from the continental or so-called continental tradition. So I'll get into this. And then again, on the topic of Hannah Arendt, Eichmann in Jerusalem, I probably won't read this year because I read it on Kindle, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's one of Hannah Arendt's... Is it Hannah Arendt or Hannah Arendt? I think it's Hannah Arendt. Hannah Arendt's most renowned and well-known works, so therefore I wanted to own a physical copy. And then, this was just a book I bought, really, Hobbes' Leviathan. It's like a classic, isn't it, in political theory and political philosophy. So I just bought it. I probably won't read this year too, but when it's sitting on my shelf, if the need or the urge, the need or the desire to read it does come, I'll just have it. All I gotta do is pick it up and read it. But yeah, those are the books. Let me see if I can show them all together at once. Man, just looking at books makes me so happy. It's just so weird. I get so much happiness from learning and reading. So much happiness and joy. Those are the books, and it's quite heavy. It's quite a handful. I hope you enjoyed my first episode in this book haul series. And this first episode is for January 2023. And I'll be doing another one for February when I do my next book haul. So every month I order a bunch of books, and I'll see for how long I could keep this going. And clearly, as you can see, this is completely unscripted. It's just a very, very casual thing I'm doing, just to give some inspiration. Just to because I love watching other people's book hauls and looking at what other people are reading, the resources they're accessing, and hopefully this video, for what it's worth, could give you some kind of inspiration and expose you to some of these thinkers if you haven't heard of them already. Saying all that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.